Well, in publishing, there are no rules. There are no guidebook that you can buy to say, here's how to be a successful publisher. I wish there was one of those. When we started our company in 1983, I was clueless as to how this is going to work. And let me give you an example of what clueless I was. We got this brilliant idea that the needlework industry was huge, and it is and was. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. But there was no magazine in the industry. And I, being a CPA, I left Ernst & Young, got married, and had the twin boys that you'll meet in just a minute, my best work ever. And so I knew this industry was out there of enthusiasts, but how do you get to it? And so I kept asking, why didn't somebody do a magazine for women, needleworkers, stitchers? There's a lot of money being spent. And so finally it's like, that's a good idea. We're going to give it a shot. We got our idea from a decorator show house. How weird. The book they give you when you walk in, it was 68 pages, had staples in it, black and white in the middle, and a color cover. And I went to visit a printer. No printer would see me but one in Birmingham. That was kind of fun too. So I go in and drag this book in, and I said, we want to do a magazine just like this about stitching. And the look he gave me was indescribable. He called us the little old stitching ladies. So we had to come up with a marketing plan. There was no direct marketing. There was no direct mail. Who knew what that was? Who knew anything about telemarketing? Nobody. So we had to come up with a plan. And we printed up little brochures for shop owners to put in their customers' bags that says, you're invited to be a charter subscriber. $12 a year, 6 issues. We did the P&L. It would break even if we got 3,500 subscribers. So we went to the Atlanta Needlework Show with nothing but a poster that says, here's what we're going to be. And that was another exciting look we got from people, but there was a void in the industry. And so these shop owners put those little cards in their customers' bags when they checked out. And we had 3,500 paid up front, sight unseen customers that wanted our magazine. So we knew we were in business. We could go 1 year. I will never forget going to the post office that first time when the box was empty. Because you'd get 10 or 20 and you'd scream and jump up and down. It was so cool. And then it was empty. And so when I stood there dragging these cute little twin boys that were 2, and I thought, we're out of business, we're done. He said, you're that stitching lady, ain't you? Come back here and get these bags. And there were bags of mail. And we were just like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? By the second issue, we had 25,000 paid subscribers. And by the end of the first year, we were approaching 100,000. We had found a niche in the market. Now, to further tell you how clueless I was, it's a 68-page magazine, that's it, no more, no less. We turned down advertisers. Yeah, let that sink in. 68 pages, 30% advertising, 70% content. We just have to put you on a waiting list, I'm sorry. As I hear myself say this today, I'm thinking, my word. Add a signature, crazy. Who knew what a signature was? 8 pages? Okay, that sounds good. So finally, someone sat down and said, okay, let's look at this magazine situation. You've got people clamoring to get in your book, and you're telling them no. Publishers don't do that. Okay, so we figured out the mechanics on a as-you-go basis. So once we learned the mechanics of physically producing a magazine, which was interesting because unbeknownst to young students, and I say young compared to me, everybody's young, when you look at you, we actually printed out the type on a piece of paper, stuck it on a board, and lined it up with a T-square, and that's how we did the layout on a page. How many of you remember that? You'll date yourself, but yeah, it was real. So if you wanted to change your mind, you ripped it off the page and stuck a new one down. the pictures. You carved out a little box out of ruby lith, and that's where the picture was to go. And when it went in pre-press, whoever did that magic put it in that box. And out it came printed. Still don't know how that worked, but it was a miracle at that time. We learned all those mechanics by trial and error. But the one thing that was the hardest thing in the world was to understand the concept of a newsstand. Because people would say, oh, why are you not on the newsstand? What's a newsstand? I mean, how do you get it there? People buy it from you and you cash your check and you're happy? No, it's a consignment store. And so we learned those mechanisms, and just as we were getting involved in that, Select Magazines went under, along with $65,000 of our dollars, which at the time was devastating to a company like ours. So things don't always turn out like you think. Let me give you an example. I went to a dentist the other day. You know, with all these health plans, sometimes you have to change. And I found the name of a guy that I went to high school with. Now, he was Mr. Everything. You know the one, nod your head, you would have killed to have had a date with. You know what I'm talking about. This guy. And I thought, this must be him. So I go in there, Keith cleaned in, he comes, and it's this fat old bald man, and I thought, well, that's wonderful. So I had visions of it being the guy I went to high school with who's going, oh my God, you haven't aged. Look at this. So go through the motions. He comes in, and I said, well, you know, thought you were a classmate of mine and everything. And he said, oh, yeah, well, where'd you go to school? I said, Shades Valley, Birmingham. He said, when did you graduate? I said, 1972. He said, I did too. My heart sunk. And then I said, well, you were in my class. And he said, what did you teach? Whoa! That didn't quite go like I thought it wanted. I wanted to go. So it is in publishing. So it is in publishing. Because we all have brilliant ideas, don't we? That they're going to be the next record-breaking out of the park. We were very fortunate that we hit a market that did not have anyone playing in it. That's a beautiful thing, you know. You can't really do wrong when you're the only one. You can turn down ads. You don't even have to send renewal notices. People will mail their check in because they love you. Ponder that. We had 95% renewal. 95. Now, when we mailed the card to the other 5%, they wrote apology letters. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that I had not sent this in. I thought that's the way the world was. I mean, my word, that's how we started. It's not going to change. So as we matured and we learned there is such thing as competition, and once you start something, well, guess what? Me too. Somebody's going to come in. I can do it better than they can. And so then competition comes in, and that becomes fun. We rocked along. We landed the Disney contracts and moved into a whole new world of ancillary products to accompany a magazine. So as our company grew, we sold our business. We were approached by a company that had a lot of titles like ours and was looking for a good management team, and so we sold our business. And 5 years later, we bought it back, bought the magazines back and reincorporated. I was not willing to move to Denver. My boys were at that time seniors in high school, and I didn't want them going on Oprah talking about how their mother ruined their lives, and our family was embedded in Birmingham. And so we bought our magazine back and reincorporated, and that was in 1998. So we had our little stitching book, and the world had changed in publishing that the general magazines still had great worth, but the people that could come into a very niche market and capture the hearts of people regarding a specific product or specific theme or likes, that was where we were going. So we were sitting around the conference table one day, and I'm like, why didn't somebody do a magazine like for Southern women? I mean, you know, we've got Victoria, and, you know, but there's nothing about the South, it's just for women. And finally, our art director, Michael, stood up and said, why do we just have to do stitching here? Duh. He said, we're in media. And so from there, we kicked the walls out at Hoffman Media to include lifestyle. And today, we now have 11 magazines, and I don't know how many specials. They come out every 5 minutes, I think. But we have looked for those great markets to be in. Another time in our career that nearly did us in was when we launched Paula Deen magazine. We were coming out with that magazine at the same time Rachel Ray. Neither one of us knew it. But when that magazine hit, we had bought our company back, as I said. We could not process the phone calls. We had bags of mail lining the hall. We couldn't open it, and we thought, we're done. We can't even handle this. That's what you really want every magazine to do. So we quickly moved to fulfillment houses and service companies that helped in the mechanics of publishing. So it took us to a different level. Today, we are very, very blessed and excited about our company. We are family owned, which that makes it a lot of fun. And those two boys that started literally in the magazine modeling California Raisin outfits in the Stitching magazine are now co-presidents of our company. And my best work are these two boys. And if you want to have a great company, you surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. And that's what I did. And so right now, I'd like for you to meet Eric Hoffman. Nope, you're last, I'm sorry. Brian Hoffman. He was born first. I thought he'd go first. Brian Hoffman is co-president, and he is the chief creative officer at Hoffman Media. Oops, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. So you already know where we came from, and you already know that we grew up in the business, but that's not the whole story. If you think about Hoffman Media's 11 titles that we publish today, she mentioned Southern Lady is the first magazine that she branched out from the craft industry into lifestyle publishing. And our company's growth has really followed a path of a creative conversation with our customers. And that's the first thing I would say. My job as a chief creative officer is not to come up with new ideas every day, but it's to listen to the customers that we have built a loyal following from. Southern Lady magazine had a few special columns in each issue, one of which was Tea Time with Southern Lady, one of which was Taste of the South with Southern Lady, and now today, those two titles have expanded beyond Southern Lady and they are standalone titles. We have 144 releases per year, including the regular issues and specials, so we are not bored at Hoffman Media. The one thing I always want to address when I present or participate in an event of this caliber is first, it's such an honor to be in front of so many people in the industry that are colleagues and people that I respect, but people that we are competitors, friendly competitors. We are peers, we are clients of your service businesses, and in order for print to exist in 2020, we all have to stay here together. Hoffman Media cannot be the only magazine publisher in our industry, or else we would not have printers, distributors, newsstands, and other areas. So together in this room, we have to strengthen together to stay in business and continue growing. Print isn't dying, it's changing. If you would have told me 10 years ago when I started at Hoffman Media that we would launch periodicals at a cover price of $12.99, everyone in the room and everyone in the office would have said, no way, no one is going to pay us $12.99 for an issue of a magazine. 2 years ago, we launched 3 titles at $12.99 as newsstand specials. Within 2 issues, they were all succeeding and growing, and today all 3 have subscriber bases. Now they are periodicals of Hoffman Media. Last year, we had 3 titles on the top 30 launch list presented by Dr. Husney in New York. Baked from Scratch won the hottest launch of the year. That was not an accident, and that was not because we were not listening to customers and what that relationship means. So as a chief creative officer, what do I do every day? I already said I don't think up new things every day because the number one thing I do is issue creative constraint to a team of very talented and very creative editors, photographers, content creators in our company. I think some of the most wonderful brands that launched strong and had great content but felt like they needed to reinvent themselves every 6 months or every year saw a quick death because readers don't change as fast as we do. We spend 365 days a year thinking about our brands and our Instagram and our Facebook and our newsletters and our magazines and what's going to be in the next issue. And we get really excited and come up with 12 new things, and it's easy to want to change. But if you think about your readers, they spend maybe 6, 7 days, a few hours of those days per year with your title. They're not bored. They're just getting the hang of what you're doing, and they really just want you to stay the course and show them new and interesting things, but within the diet of what you've presented to them. And if the numbers look good and the growth is there, don't feel the need for constant change. That's one thing I've always tried to discipline our staff with. And it's easy to get off course. We sit in creative meetings and hear the next idea for the next title or the next idea for the next column. And we put those on the list, or we try to work them into social media dialogue or other areas of interest for our readers. The next thing is we listen to our readers. If you put content out through social media, through newsletters, or in your print publications, you'll know very quickly whether it was a success or a failure. And it's hard as a creative person to admit that an idea you had did not work. And we've had a few of those at Hoffman Media. But the number one thing that we really strive to do daily is listen to our consumers and communicate with them. It is a priority on every staff to communicate on social media platforms. If someone asks a question, we need to provide an answer. If someone tells you I don't like it, we need to take note and not repeat those things in mass. So I always encourage creative constraint and creative conversation with your audience. And for the students in the room, the one thing I try to always take myself back to is when I was a child or when I was starting 10 years ago at our business, what do I want to know, or what would I say to someone today that wants to be in magazine media? The first I want to say is thank you. Thank you for being in the education program here that is giving you the knowledge, and I hope your passion is lit and your fire is alive, because the number one thing we need is new talent coming into our workforce, starting new brands, joining existing brands, and following your passions into a creative career. Be patient and learn as much as you can in the various education classrooms, on the job trainings, or anything that you can do to strengthen your areas of passion and interest. Start where you can. You may graduate from this program and think, I'm going to move to New York, I'm going to work for that fashion magazine, and that's the path I'm going to be on. It doesn't always look like The Devil Wears Prada. It doesn't. We have one of our editorial directors, Brooke Bell. She's been with Hoffman Media for 10 years. It is not her first editorial job. She graduated from school with her literary degree, and she had a goal of being in magazine media. The job she found was at Hunter and Fishing magazines at a B2B publisher in Birmingham. And I asked her one day, I said, I'm looking at your resume and I want to know, why is it that you were working at a hunting and fishing magazine? Did you grow up hunting? Did you grow up fishing? What was the area of interest? She said, no, it's the only place I could get a job. But I took that job and I worked my way into a managing editor role, and I learned everything I could about the reader's interest. They were never her interest. They were never what she wanted to do, but she could put herself in the mind of the audience and create a product that continued to grow and succeed. So she realized she needed to do more. So she went to culinary school at night after working all day at those publications. She got a culinary degree and thought, this is the way I'm going to get into magazine media, culinary magazine media. And she interviewed at Hoffman Media for a position on Cooking with Paula, Deen's staff. And she was hired. And within 3 years of her joining our company, and Paula Deen being one of the largest magazines in the industry of food titles, it being the largest magazine at Hoffman Media, she came forward and said, I really have an interest in Taste of the South. I think there's a lot more that we can do. There's some stories that we can tell. There's some places that we can go. And she said, I'm really passionate about that. So she was promoted to the editor of Taste of the South. And the journey goes from there in her areas of interest and her quest for knowledge. And the students in the room today need to know that that course and career is in front of you if you apply the same hard work and diligence that she did. Explore your creativity through blogging and social media platforms. It is very common when we interview candidates to work for us that we look at their blogs, their social media, and they say, I can create recipes. I do food photography. I can write stories about chefs. Here's my work. No, you weren't paid by anyone to do it, and no, it wasn't your job, but you were expressing your passion and interest through a digital platform. So in the print industry, we look to you to see where your interest and passion lies within the digital space. So at Hoffman Media, we are a family. We are a family not just of 3 people sitting in the room today. We are a family of 100 people because we bring people in and want them to learn. We want them to grow, and we want them to be passionate about what we're doing, because I can promise you one thing right now. The 3 of us that are here are not the ones that come up with every idea, with every story, and with every title that we publish. It is a family business, but we have 100 family members that we represent here tonight. Thank you for having me, and Eric is now going to come and share what he does with Hoffman Media.
Good evening. He used his phone. I'm using actually print. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to Dr. Husni, who had us all here to speak tonight. This is my second year to be at the conference and speak, and I appreciate you being big fans of Hoffman Media. It's truly an honor to be here alongside our family to talk to you about our business a little bit. There's going to be some stuff, we're twins, so some of the stuff he said I may repeat, but that's just part of it. So I'll tell you a quick story to start. So this morning I was driving my children to school because I'm in Birmingham, not too far from here. And it was my 8-year-old son and 6-year-old daughter, and I said, guys, I'm leaving town. I'm going to be gone for a few days. I'm going to this magazine conference. I said, what do you think I should say to a bunch of magazine publishers? And they said, well, what are you going to talk about? And I said, well, I don't know. Let's talk about like how to be successful in this business. And my daughter said, well, I think that you should tell them to work hard. And I said, okay, I agree with that. My son echoed that. Yeah, I think they work really hard. And I said, okay, I think we do that. I think our industry does that. And then he said, well, I think you also need to try to be successful. And I said, well, that's what I was trying to ask you, is how to be successful. He said, no, I mean, if you want to be successful, you have to try. Okay, good point. And I said, well, what else? And ironically, what my brother just said, both of my children said, I think to be successful, you have to be patient. And I said, that's a 6-year-old and 8-year-old, like, that's a pretty good perspective. And I said, you're right. Yeah, I think being patient is important. Then I said, well, if you were going to tell the industry, our magazine industry something, what would you tell them? And my 6-year-old jumped in and she said, well, I think that the industry should work as a team. I said, okay, like, what do you mean? She said, like I go to school and like we sit in our class and someone's over here and they're not spelling something right, and like we all get around them and we figure it out, and we're a team. And I said, well, that's actually a really good point. And that's why we're going to this conference, because that's really what we're doing. We're a team. You have the MPA, the ACT experience. We are a team. And we're figuring out some really big problems. But I think that it's important for that childlike approach in kind of what we think about as our industry. And so tonight, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some things that I think create success for our business and also I think for our industry. I'm going to start by just telling you that I firmly believe that the secret sauce for Hoffman Media is that there's no secret sauce. I think that it's a belief and dedication to some things that at some level I think we all know. One is our belief in quality circulation, quality editorial, quality product, quality clients, and huge quality component to people. You often say, and I use this now mainly on sales calls, but is that it is about the customers that count and not about counting customers. And we are huge believers in that. When it comes to circulation, both subscription and our newsstand, we run those businesses as standalone businesses. So the subscription business has to stand up on its own and be a profitable business. Our newsstand business has to be run as a profitable business, independent of what we do with our advertising business. And while I have a great appreciation for a lot of the reports that people talk about, audience sizes, scale, terms we all throw around like rate base, the fact of the matter is that this industry really has to focus on the quality of our readership, because the gimmicks and the things that have been built into now how we think about our industry have caused really a lot of problems. And the advertisers have so many places to advertise, and I think that down the road is going to create some real heartache for a lot of the bigger publishers. We invest in direct mail. We love direct mail. Direct mail still works remarkably well. I'm a finance guy, so just the geek side of me real quick. We get 20 to 30% IRRs off our direct mail campaigns. I would take that investment all day long. So we love that. We focus on the conversion and the renewal. I think a lot of that has to do with the creative side of the house. You got to deliver great magazines that deliver on the promise. But the conversion, the renewal is something that is so vital to our industry. And if you're going to have subscription and revenue, and you're going to have a viable business long term, spend time on the conversion and the renewal. It's everything. And I already said it. We don't believe in gimmicks. There's intro offers, I guess you'd say, but we just don't give stuff away. The other thing is we work with our advertisers, and we work with prospects, the ones that we believe belong in the magazines. So just because they're spending money doesn't mean they fit us. So there's a lot of stuff that we're not going to call on. And what that does is I think that keeps our business focused, because you can get salespeople and you can go say, go. And they're going to go run research, they're going to do radar studies, they're going to come back and they're going to tell you every category where everyone spent money and how we got to go get them. And the problem is, not everybody needs to or wants to be in our magazines. So understanding those right kind of businesses. And in our case, that became tourism, it became some consumer packaged good businesses, but mainly regional. And a lot of multi-generational family-owned companies that had their own stories to tell. And that's really been the thing that's helped our advertising business grow nicely, double-digit growth over the last few years in a down market. Still heavy dedication to print. And I think that's just because it's about focus and not about trying to be all things to everybody. We believe in company culture. We're big believers in that, and ours is family. And we've already said that. Our employers know it. Our employees know that. Our readers know it, and our advertisers know it. In our media kits, every deck we have with our advertisers, we say, quote from Phyllis, that we treat our advertisers as family. And what that means is that we make mistakes, they make mistakes, but we're in it together. And it's a long view on building partnerships. It's not to sell in just to the next issue so that I can meet a number. It's about what am I going to do over a long period of time to help these companies be more successful. And when you start having those conversations with advertising clients, it really changes the game. And so I would say that that's a huge advantage. The other thing that I focus on too in my role as our Chief Operating Officer is vendors are so much more than vendors. They are really your partner in a big way, because we do all this great stuff. We have great creative minds that develop amazing content. And then most of the time we hit a button and it goes somewhere else. And there's distributors, there's printers, there's fulfillment houses, all these guys, they call on all of us. And you got to choose one or a few. But I think finding the right ones is so important, because at the end of the day, the way your customers experience your brands, most of the time, it's not because they're calling you. They're calling your customer service. They're reading the magazine when they get it in their mailbox. And it can look great or it can look like crap. And if you want cheap print, you're going to get a cheap outcome. Find high quality, great vendors that believe in your business and that want to partner with you. I didn't name any particulars, so I'm not selling anybody. But finally, I think that being here at the start of the ACT experience, I would sort of say it's a challenge really for everybody here to take kind of a personal inventory on their own businesses and really have an open mind as to what the next few days I think are going to unveil, because I'm one small opinion that's happened to make our business work. You know, we've experienced a great circulation-centric, customer-centric business that's worked really well. It's not the only way to run the industry. We're very biased to how we like to run our business. But I would say that everyone thinking about the core to our industry, the fundamentals, the things like subscription, newsstand, advertising, how those businesses are run, I think thinking about how that impacts your business over time, run the right way, and and in contrast to what everyone in the next few days is going to talk about, I think is really going to be insightful. And then I just would say to all the students, please get in the magazine business. It's an amazing business to be in. We think, we want to be doing this 30 years from now. We love what we do. We love the content business. We love the sales and marketing business. It's a fun business to be in. All of the .com businesses on the West Coast, they're raising gazillions of dollars, billions and billions of dollars in valuation. They're jealous of what we do. At the end of the day, they don't have content, and we do, and I think that's a really big deal. So with that being said, I thank you so much for having us, and have a great ACT experience.
Thank you. Thank you, Phyllis. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Eric. Does it seem I'm losing my voice? Would I ask, please, if the three of you come here, because they are so humble, they did not announce that Phyllis was the publisher of the year for a new launch last year in a media event we did with Media Industry Newsletter and Folio in New York. Brian was the editor-in-chief of Baked from Scratch, which was the new magazine launch of the year, and Eric handled all the finances perfectly, that he paid me enough money to choose them as the publisher and editor of the year. We have a little token for you. Jim Dees may be the next William Faulkner, so if you like William Faulkner, read about the statue and the Fury instead of the whatever book he wrote that has the Fury in it, the sound of the Fury in it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.